Hey, how's it going, everybody? Lawler here. I know we talk a lot about NA and EU as it is the two primary regions that people tend to focus on due to results and everything else throughout the course of RLCS history, but something that people need to be aware of is that there is actually 6 other regions that compete in the RLCS now, all in the same format, the same system, both with 3 regionals, being able to go to the major and everything else. And I figured now is a good time that Regional 1 is over to educate you all on the fact that these 6 other regions have some pretty strong teams. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about OCE, South America, Middle East, Asia Pacific North and South, and the Sub-Saharan region, and express and educate you guys on the kind of top teams that people should be made aware of before the major comes in just a couple months. What's up, everybody? Lawler here. Going to be talking about the other 6 regions that are possibly lesser known now that the first regional for every single region has concluded. The first big event has come to a close, and we've got some more known names and some lesser known names that people may not be aware of. I'm going to go in order. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of the specifics, but I do recommend in the description down below, you can actually go to the regionals. There's different tabs at the top. You should be seeing actually a display of this and kind of a video that's overlaid. And as you scroll down through these, you can actually click the little info icon, and it should give you timestamps if you would like to go back and check out some of these matches. I think the easiest ones to start out with are grand finals because it usually gives you the top 2 teams competing. You can also kind of check out easy results and look at game differentials and have a general idea of who these top rosters are. And you can do this for every single regional, but there is going to be some that are lesser known, while there is others that have been involved in the scene for an extended period of time. And I'm going to start with those first. I'm going to start with the more known regions first with OCE and SAM, and then we'll get into Middle East, Asia, and Sub-Saharan afterwards. So first things first, let's start with OCE. The top 4 are pretty straightforward. Right now, Ground Zero Gaming, as many consider kind of being the #1 overall seed, has actually been thwarted. There's been pretty much 4 teams that I would pay attention to, and they all basically make the semifinals. There's a couple upsets here and there, but Renegades, Ground Zero, Riot Gaming, and Direwolves. Direwolves is probably the newest edition of that have been turning some heads. Also, Renegades have been doing a really good job, primarily CJ up on offense. At one point in this tournament, they outscored a team. I think it was like 22-5 or 22-3. I think it was. It was something insane in their first series in the grand finals. It was the largest game differential ever. It was pretty nuts. They 10-0'd a team in one of the grand final matches. Ground Zero has been clicking on all possible wheel, cylinder, whatever you want to call it. Renegade's been looking really, really good. Offense coming together. I still think Kami is probably one of the best players in the region. And Fever's been a fantastic new addition for that team. So they are trying to bring CJ back to LAN for the first time in 3 or 4 LANs. It's been a long time since we've seen CJ on stage. So that team looking pretty dang good. Ground Zero still in competition. Their series obviously going 3 series, 4-0, 3-4, and then 4-0 again for Renegades. It's been really fun watching the OCE scene. Very chaotic, very aggressive. Defense still has some issues, but overall, some good passing plays. A lot of focus on passing plays over in OCE. Pretty entertaining. Riot Gaming, I don't think gets enough credit. Very talented roster as well. But the rosters are as follows. Ground Zero Gaming, Amphis, Torsos, and Express. Riot Gaming is Finn, Tango, and Kaka. I hope it's not Kaka. I think it's Kaka. If it's Kaka, then it's poop, and I hope it's not that. Renegades is the usually fan favorite because it's CJ, Kami, and Fever. And the Direwolves is Fiverr, Misty, and Walcott. Some of those names should be known. You should recognize some of those team names. Over to South America. We've got 4 rosters as well that I want to pay attention to. Era, who is surprising a lot. Furia, which is the new God Squad. They brought in Jan, who is my boy. He may not know he's my boy, but Jan's my boy. He hits highlights like... Basically, Furia's the super team, and all these other teams are trying to keep up. Furia's got Kaio, Card, and Jan, King Card, and Kaio the Prince. A lot of really good talent, notable names on that roster. You've got Era, who just picked up another team with Astromic, Math, and Snip. You've got Noble with Sadness, Knight, and Idrifino. You've also got 3 Sins with Brad, Maddox, and Electro. There's a lot of really good teams in South America all competing. You got Novus AV with Tander, PJ, and Luck. There's some solid rosters going on in South America, and we haven't even talked about all of them. But Primarily, the big ones are getting to the end. There's been a couple upsets here and there on the lower side of the bracket with like Dream Conspiracy and Vegas Inferno. But the big ones I would pay attention to are right now Furia, Noble, Era Eternity, and probably 3 Sins. I think you would have saw 3 Sins make it further in the bracket if they weren't playing Noble right away. The rosters are as follows for those that do not know. Furia, as I mentioned, Kyle, Card, and Jan. Noble, Sadness Knight, and Jufino. Era is Astronomic Math and Snip. And then you also have 3 Sins, which is Brad, Maddox, and Electro. A couple roster changes through those rosters. But primarily, those are kind of the top dogs. There's obviously a lot of parity in the scene, which is really exciting, but most people are paying attention to Furia. They may not do the best in the group stage, pretty dang close with a +7 game differential. Era ended up going 9-0. But when it comes to the grand finals, 4-1 and 4-0. Furia is averaging like 3 or 4 goals a game. It's nasty. This is a super team. This is a team that when you see them in the major, you're going to be like, oh, damn. But Furia, now that True Neutral no longer in the way, has overtaken that scene by storm. And they're doing it with a super team because they just took their roster and made it even better with one of the best players in the scene in Jan. So watch out for Furia and the rest. Very talented rosters in South America. These should be the teams or the rosters that you're a little bit more familiar with. Jumping over to the Middle East and North Africa region. This is where most people who know Sandrock Gaming, thanks to Johnny Boy and that. But there's a bunch of other teams as well. There's quite a bit of depth actually in this area. Sandrock and Falcons are pretty much the more known, but there's teams like Anka, Sleeping, Ultimates, a lot of really talented rosters. Sandrock Gaming is the clear favorite right now. Their team obviously did make that roster change because Senzo decided to retire, and then he's like, just kidding, I'm back, because of the announcement. But they're still sticking with TRK. It is Ahmad, Okhalid, and TRK. You can also talk about Falcons, which is probably the second most known. The Falcons, and on their roster is going to be Twiz, Ali, and SMW. Very talented roster. The Ultimates, AMS, M7SN, I think it's Mason, and then you've got Zazonix as well. Those 3 are kind of the big focuses, but the cool thing about the Middle East is now that they're getting regular competition, you can have some pretty solid expectations that as competition continues, some teams are going to get more reps, which is going to make them better at a faster rate. Kind of the Shopify Rebellion effect, where before when they were Flight, new team, new player, Beast Mode comes in, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is top 4 teams. So you can expect that. The top 2, obviously, from Middle East Africa are Sandrock Gaming and Falcons, but Ultimates proving that they also have a ton of talent. They went 4-0 and 4-1 in their quarterfinal and semifinals before they came up against a good Sandrock Gaming team. So by all means, a lot of really talented teams. Still, keep your eyes out, though. Big 2, in my opinion, would be Sandrock and Falcons. Falcons may have had an off day, but Ultimates also very talented. Looking through the rest of these rosters, I would also say Sleeping with Venom, Fahad, and Faisal. I always forget how to say his name, but that team's got some pretty good star talent on it, on Sleeping. So keep in mind them as well. You're pretty accurate if you stick to like the top 4 of the region. Up next, we got Asia Pacific. We're going to talk about North first. And North is going to be probably the more known because of a team in particular, Tokyo Verde. You guys did watch my LAN simulation. Tokyo Verde was the RNG gods. They've also got the most popular player in the region on Realize on their team. If you don't know Tokyo Verde, this is also one of the few teams that has LAN experience at an international level. Realize and his crew, before when they were with 1NE, I'm pretty sure, ended up going to DreamHack Montreal back in 2018, 2019. So there is some LAN experience. Also, the team in second place has a player who we all know and love in Doomsy. If you guys don't remember Doomsy or Doom 2E, this is a player that has been in the scene since its inception, played for Europe for a long time before he moved to Japan. Doomsy, a long-standing veteran of the scene, is also making some waves. They took second place in this tournament. So Doomsy back in the RLCS after like missing out on, I think it was like 1,812 days or something. It's like a like crazy record to see Doomsy back. He even Doomsy dishes in the tournament, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, Hilltop Picnic. There's a bunch of different teams, but there is definitely the clear favorites in Tokyo Verde. And then there's some parity, I guess, in the top middle of it. But it also makes it exciting. I'm going to be personally paying attention to Tokyo Verde and Hilltop Picnic because my boy Doomsy's back in it. Doomsy also does a ton of work for the Wisdom Gaming Group team, which is Torrent. He does a lot of their content creation stuff and all their editing, so good to see there. You also saw Team Ganders perform very, very well in the Swiss stage. Team Ganders is Retra, Namoto Puri, and Popo. Lucky Bounce, an OG name, but different team altogether. But there is a bunch of different parity in this in results. My recommendation, again, is do the best to kind of pay attention to the overperforming teams in Swiss and then see again and try to compare that to how they do if they make it into the playoffs. But Hilltop Picnic and Tokyo Verde to keep it simple. Up next, we got Asia Pacific South. Some names you may recognize and a lot you're probably not going to, just because this is, again, one of the newer regions. Primarily looking at these rosters, you can pay attention to the teams that are finding themselves top 4 consistently, which we haven't been able to do just yet. Ironically, we are seeing some similar names like Atelier making it back, even though it is a horrible name and is based off of, I think, a anime, if I remember correctly. 1NE is the biggest signed, alongside like Azure and Alk. But depending on how this one goes, I'm still not 100% on the teams I personally want to pay attention to in this. And the easiest way to do it is by paying attention to the teams that have the overall best results. I know it sounds like a kind of a cop-out, but it's probably your best idea just for now, because those are the ones that are going to carry themselves through. I will say 1NE, although they do finish third, does have Rapupi, Chaotic, and Poofy, which you should know. Primarily, it's hard to forget a name like Rapupi or however you say it. And if it is Rapupi, then that's just what we're going with. Bunny Dummy and Azure, Squiggly, and Claw Z. On Azure Esports, they took second. Alk, though, with LCT, Maxu. You guys should know Maxu. He's from Ireland. And then I can never say his name, but Ballarez, something like that. For Alk, they took first place. But primarily, you can take a look at the top rosters. There was a couple subs for some of these teams, like Triple Jawa, that didn't perform as well. But overall, looking at all these rosters, ALKE, Alk, Azure Esports, 1NE are kind of the ones that I would pay attention to. But overall, a lot of parity in these scenes. It is going to be a developing process as teams get more reps. I need to see some consistency on the rosters, but the big three, 1NE, Azure, and Alk, are pretty common. You're looking at Alk, and they went perfect 9-0 in the group or in the Swiss stage, and then when they go into the grand finals, they drop one game. So they go 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-1. One game out of that many series is pretty nasty. 7 series to drop only literally one individual game. Yeah, you're kind of the favorites. Last but not least, we got the Sub-Saharan region for Africa. And in this region, the big ones to pay attention to are Pirates, ATK, Water, and I want to say Orglis, which may not happen for long, but Orglis did pretty dang well in their results. I'm pretty sure they qualified almost instantly as the 2nd seed. And pretty impressive, actually, to see some of these rosters that are finally going to get a chance just for namesake. The ability to come into a region, show consistent results, plenty of money on the line. I mean, you're talking in some of these other regions. They're still putting up prize pools of $15,000, which is massive for the scene. But these are, I think, going to take a bit more time to develop as well. I will say the depth isn't as big for the Sub-Saharan region, and that's not to discredit it, but there is some clear favorites towards the top. Orlando Pirates right now, Orglis and ATK. Out of retirement, I think, is a funny story as well, just based upon like the name itself is pretty telling. But you are getting some players that are coming back into the scene because they waited for 5 years and now have the opportunity to go play in the RLCS. I do have some concerns about this region in general when the major does come to play and they have representation, but that experience is going to be invaluable. So Snowy, Skill Steel, and Darth from Orlando Pirates XD, if you want the full name, is pretty common for favorites. ATK's got Arceon, Shalk G, and Wordy. And then in Orglis, you got Friction, Lackstar, and Risen Eclipse. I know Lackstar most out of those 3. So those are kind of the team names to pay attention to. And Water can get a shout out to because shout outs to the Hydro homies out there. But Cam, Happy Meal, and To Die For. Those are the teams you're basically paying attention to. Again, as a reminder, if you guys check the link in the description down below, you can actually go and watch. I do highly recommend just go and watch the grand finals more than anything. It will give you a continuous series to see teams adapt and kind of play that chess match. It'll give you an inclination of why the certain teams are better than others. It also shows in some of these other regions glaring issues that need to be fixed and worked upon, and having consistent competition against teams that are better than you is going to help those at a very rapid rate. So when we finally get through 3 regionals and then into the major, you're going to see big contrast from now compared to then, which is really exciting. But hopefully that gives you all kind of a bit of insight into the top teams, or even just as a reminder, this is stuff you guys can all do on your own by going to the Liquipedia and taking some time to watch some of these matches, even if the time zones don't always add up. Because understand, all these other regions are also playing at the exact same time as NA and EU. You can tune into these. You can become fans of some of these lesser known regions, which I highly recommend. It's always fun to have some dark horse wildcard teams kind of in your back pocket to root for in the early stages based upon seeding and stuff. So that is going to do it for your kind of around the RLCS recap. If you guys got a better name for what we should call this, let me know in the comments down below. But that is going to do it for me. Any other questions, comments, concerns, as always, drop those down. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content, as well as hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the latest Rocket League news. But that is going to do it for me, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.